August 6th, the Feast of the Transfiguration. This summer, the Folger Theater here in Washington is putting on Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. This is one of Shakespeare's most popular works and a regular part of summer theater, Shakespeare in the Park, and other formats meant to reach a broader audience. It is often described as enchanting, ethereal, and full of wonder because its characters inhabit a world filled with mischievous fairies whose magic powers both vex and enrich ordinary human lives. We see a similar appeal in many other fantasy stories, whether in the movies, on television, on the stage, or in books. Think of the great popularity of Frozen and many other entries in the Disney Pixar catalog. Some dismiss this as pure escapism, but I would argue that there is more to it. These stories suggest that there is another dimension to reality beyond what we can directly observe in our ordinary day-to-day lives, something beyond our comprehension and control that nevertheless enters into our world and affects our lives for good or ill. All but the most hardened rationalists are open to this truth, both instinctively and philosophically. Moreover, embracing this truth can lift us up, filling us with wonder and reverence, and helping us see a deeper beauty and meaning in our experience. Rather than encouraging us to escape reality, it can help us to deal with it in a more courageous and creative way by giving it a deeper meaning and purpose that transcends our ordinary interests and concerns. For example, in many Native American cultures, the world is seen as spirit-filled, and those who believe that live in a deep reverence for the earth and for all life, have an awareness of walking in beauty, and always seek to bring peace and harmony to their community and their world. Today's readings recount how God opened up a deeper reality, indeed the ultimate reality, to chosen prophets and apostles. They saw God's glory in all its beauty, power, and majesty. Their initial reaction, understandably, was to shrink back in fear, aware of their own weakness and insignificance in the face of that awesome presence. But that was not the purpose of the revelation. It was meant to lift them up, not scare them away. The glory they saw was bestowed on a human being. In the first reading, it was the mysterious Son of Man. In the Gospel, it was Jesus, who often referred to himself as the Son of Man. Though fully human, Jesus was embraced as God's Son, on whom God's favor rests. The glorification of Jesus was not meant to separate him from our common humanity, with its joys and sorrows, its triumphs and defeats, its strength and weakness. While the disciples wanted to luxuriate in that peak moment, Jesus insisted that they go back down the mountain to the gritty reality of ordinary human life. From there, he resumed his journey to Jerusalem, where rejection, humiliation, torture, and execution awaited. But the vision on the mountain gave his passion and death a new meaning, even if the disciples were slow to grasp it. As Son of Man, Jesus endured brutal suffering, but as Son of God, he transformed it into the priestly sacrifice of love and obedience that lifts all humanity out of the morass of sin and death to share in the glory of the Father. Our faith invites us to share in this vision of a world filled with God's glory. Most notably, we believe that the Eucharist is in reality not simply the bread and wine we see, but the body and blood of Christ, who sacrificed himself for us and rose to a new and glorified life. Furthermore, when we receive the Eucharist, Christ becomes part of us, and we share in his divine life. In a broader sense, we believe that God is always present at work in our world, bringing healing and reconciliation, even in the face of our sinfulness and divisiveness. In the spiritual exercises, for example, St. Ignatius asks us, quote, to consider how God works for me in all creatures on the face of the earth, in the heavens, the elements, the plants, the fruits, the cattle, etc. He gives being, conserves them, confers life and sensation. And to see, quote, all blessings and gifts descending from above, as the rays of light descend from the sun, and as the waters flow from their fountains, end quote. That deeper reality extends to our future as well. In Christ we have the assurance that all those who follow him and are open to his mercy will find a new life beyond death, sharing with Christ in that glory revealed to the disciples on the mountain. If we can embrace these truths, trusting in God's promise, we can live lives of gratitude, joy, and peace, and find the strength to serve Christ in love and generosity.